one of the changes that were made, that was made with the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, which was passed on December 5th in 2024 during the Adams administration. So one very important thing that happened or was implemented is the qualifying residential site. And it's very, very powerful, in fact. So this is my website, and under QRS, I have the eligibility highlights here. So a property that meets either A, B, or C can qualify as a qualifying residential site. I pulled up a site here already. This is in Far Rockaway. That is a QRS. It's owned by an LLC that, from my understanding, will be developing the property. And I just want to showcase why a QRS is so powerful and why, at the very least, if if you own a property that may qualify for it, if you're looking to sell a property or develop your own property, whatever it is, you definitely need to know about this hidden potential value add to whatever property that you have or looking to acquire. So this is a property here, Far Rockaway, and I'll show you why it qualifies as a qualifying residential site. So if we go back here, again, A, B, or C. A is if you meet these set of rules here. B is this, and then C located in an M1 district paired with an R1 through R5. I would say that most are going to fall between A or B. With even that, most of them are going to be A, like this particular property. So the first regulation here that you need to get to is the lot needs to be 5,000 square feet or more. Now, this lot is 5,000 square feet. Then you need to be in the greater transit zone. This is in the greater transit zone. Now, this is Zola. All you got to do is, after you input the property, there's a filter over here, a layer, I should say. You just select greater transit zone, and it will give you that it's in a greater transit zone. Greater transit zone is essentially any property in New York City that is within 0.5, half a mile of a subway station and a quarter mile of a Long Island Railroad station or a railway station. So it checks off both of those. Third one is it needs to have frontage on a wide street. A wide street is any street that's 75 feet or more. Go back to Zola. Let's zoom back in. Where are we? Over here. This street, I'll take off the filter. This street is 75 feet. So that's another check, right? Next piece of criteria. Now, it's either a wide street or the short dimension of a block. A short dimension of a block would be something like this. This would be the short dimension of a block. You've got the long side and the short side. What New York City defines as a short dimension is if it's 230 feet or less. That would be a short dimension of a block, right? Sorry, that's right here, 230 feet or less. Then the next one is that for this particular requirement or eligibility, which is A1, it can't be in an R1 or R2, right? So this particular property is in a R5A. It's not in an R1, it's not in an R2. Now, R1 and R2 can actually be QRS, but they just can't be, you won't get that designation if under this first set of rules here. Now that's one, you've got 2, 3, or 4. Now, the second one is greater transit zone containing an existing community facility building. So a community facility building could be anything like a school, religious facility, medical. If that building existed, right, in the greater transit zone, and you also had a community facility that existed on this date, December 5th, 2024, this could also be a QRS. Third one, outside of the greater transit zone. So if you go here, you'll see that, let's do the greater transit zone. So let's say the property was over here, right? This is Inwood. This is not in the greater transit zone, right? Because you can see it's not, doesn't pop up under the layer. It's not in the greater transit zone. If it was outside the greater transit zone and contains an existing community facility with a lot area of at least 5,000. So you see, number two, you don't have to have 5,000 square feet of a lot in order to qualify, as long as there was a community facility building there. And then 3 here, or will contain new development for qualifying senior housing. And this would be only applicable to R32, R4, R5, and R5B. Now, going back to why this is so powerful, right? Before this property, well, currently I should say, it's a R5A, right? And in an R5A, if you take a look at what you can do in an R5A, you see here that you can only do single and two family, okay? In an R5, you can do single, two family, and multifamily. Essentially, multifamily is anything that has 3 or more units is considered a multifamily. R5A, you can't. However, if you are a QRS, for any R5, R5A is called contextual. Anything that has like has a letter suffix to it is called contextual. It doesn't matter for it to get the QRS designation. It's anything within R1 through R5. If it's a QRS, it doesn't matter if it's a R5A or B or anything like that. Now, because this is a QRS, this person can now build a multifamily building, which is huge. Before, you couldn't. This was only regulated to 1 and 2 family. This is the old one. Single and 2 family. That's all you could do. On top of that, the FAR in an R5A is a 1.5, right? In a qualifying residential site under R5, again, doesn't matter that it's a R5A, as long as it's R5, that now jumps up to 2, which is a pretty significant increase. From 1.5, now you have a 2, and technically it could get to 2.5 if you were to add, in this particular instance, a community facility, right? A daycare, medical office, something like that. You could actually get to 2.5. Also, you get an increase in the max building height, right? So the max building height in the R5A, if you look here, is 35 feet, about 3 stories. Each story is going to be about 10 feet. In a QRS, that jumps to 55. So now you can go 5 stories. So essentially, right, the same property got all of these increases essentially on December 6th of 2024. The day that the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity was passed, this property increased it went from I believe it went from 1.25. Generally speaking, there was some increases in floor area ratio across the board for certain zoning, but overnight it went from 1.5 or 1.25 to 2.0, only being able to develop a single and 2 or 2 family, to now you can do an apartment building. It's really powerful. And in fact, as far as how many units you could do, so as I mentioned, you're at a 2 FAR here, and the lot itself is 5,000 square feet. So that's 10,000 buildable square feet, or BSF. And you divide that by 680, which is your DU factor, which is your dwelling unit factor. For any multi-family development, the dwelling unit factor is 680 square feet, which means that's the average size that the city says an apartment should be. And that's going to give you the max amount of apartments that can fit that you are allowed to build on that particular lot. So if you divide 10,000 by 680, you've got 14.7 units, 14 units you can do there. So essentially, you went from only being able to build 2 units. 2 units you could build, right? Because you could only do single and two family. You went from only being able to build 2 units to now being able to build 14 units on the same property. That's why it's so powerful, this QRS. I would say, I would argue that it's probably the best thing that happened as far as the city of Yes for housing opportunity and actually increasing the ability to build more was this QRS. Now, again, it's definitely something that should be, looked into if you do have a property. If you have a property in R1 through R5 and it's 5,000 square feet or more, there might be a chance that you are eligible to be a QRS. And if you're looking to, again, do something yourself, develop your own property, if you're looking to sell your property, this is information that you should know, right? The other requirements or eligibility highlights. So essentially we went over A. There's also B, which is a commercial overlay, C1, C2, C4, in an R1 through R5, right? The criteria here is also interesting. It's where the commercial district is located meets the following criteria. Commercial districts extend over the entire block. So it needs to extend over the entire block of commercial zoning. I don't have, well, technically, so this would be an overlay. This C13, this is an overlay, right? So as you can see, C1. Commercial district extend over the entire block and along the long dimensions of a commercial district, I'm sorry, I skipped one important part. The street is mapped on at least one of the adjoining block frontages. So if let's say I use this one here, the overlay needs to be on at least one other adjoining block as well on the frontage. This is perfect. See, it's not on this side, but it's on this side, the same C13 overlay. So that's a check, right? And along the long dimension of the commercial district, not more than 50% has existing single or two family residences. Okay, so this probably qualifies because this looks like it's a parking lot with, even if this is a house here, a single or two family, it's not more than 50%, right? So this more than likely would also qualify as a qualifying residential site. And what's also interesting is that if the above conditions cannot be met, it meets the criteria mentioned in section A. So essentially what they're saying is, if you can't meet this under commercial, you can still get it with the commercial overlay, as long as the commercial overlay is there, if you meet either 1, 2, 3, or 4 from paragraph A. So essentially exactly what we went over, except that now you have a commercial overlay. The commercial overlay is important because it gives you, as I mentioned before, even more FAR, more floor area ratio. If you go to resources in my on my website, let's pull this up larger. So you'll see that for a QRS, and this is a R5A, the base residential is a 2. But if you did a mixed building, right, mixed use, which is either commercial or community facility, if there could be a daycare, anything like that, and community facility is available in every single zoning from R1, I believe all the way down to R12, if I'm not mistaken, you can do a community facility. So you have the ability to do a 2.5 FAR. The 2 as residential, and that 0.5 can either be community facility if there is no commercial overlay, or It can also be commercial if there is a commercial overlay, right? So that's for the R5 or R5A, R5B. You get to that 2.5, which again is very, very powerful. So going back and, back to the property that I was looking at earlier, this is, I'm not sure, well, let me not say that, but again, this is information I think is very useful to know. It could increase the value of your property if if you're planning on selling, if you're planning on developing, it's very, very useful information to know. If you have any other questions, please reach out. This is Chris Daniels with CCD Real Estate Solutions. I'm a real estate broker. And I can also help if you're looking to actually develop your own property as well. I can put you in contact with some good general contractors as well. So yeah, I hope this helps. And any questions, my contact information is available, and take care.